A single afternoon changed the way I looked at people forever. It was not because someone stole from me or screamed in my face. It was because I watched years of love get treated like worthless trash, while a room full of smiling guests laughed as if it were entertainment. They thought they had thrown away nothing more than a handmade baby blanket. None of them realized they had almost tossed an entire family legacy into a garbage can. My name is Evelyn Brooks. I was 68 years old when this happened, and after spending more than 4 decades running a small sewing and alteration shop, I believed I had already seen every kind of person imaginable. I had worked on wedding dresses filled with hope, funeral suits soaked with grief, and tiny baby outfits stitched with dreams for the future. Over the years, I learned something money could never teach. Expensive things impress people for a moment, but handmade things carry pieces of the people who create them. That lesson had guided my entire life, even after arthritis slowly stole the strength from my hands. Every morning began with the same painful routine. Before I could even hold a knitting needle, I had to soak my fingers in warm water and gently stretch each joint until they obeyed me again. Some days I wondered if my hands were finally finished. Then I would remember the promise I had made to my husband before he passed away, and somehow the pain became easier to carry. Each stitch reminded me that love was never measured by comfort. My husband, Robert, had been gone for almost a year. We spent 43 beautiful years together, building a quiet life that never depended on expensive vacations or fancy possessions. Robert believed in patience. While other people chased quick success, he quietly prepared for the future. He drove old trucks until they could barely move, repaired everything instead of replacing it, and saved every extra dollar without ever talking about it. Most people thought he was simply careful with money. They never realized he was planning for people who had not even been born yet. Only a week before he died, Robert asked me to bring down an old wooden box that had sat untouched on the highest shelf of our bedroom closet for decades. I assumed it contained old papers or forgotten keepsakes, but when I opened it, I found dozens of savings bonds stacked neatly inside. Every bundle was labeled with a different year. Some were older than our son. Robert smiled weakly from his hospital bed and explained that he had been buying them little by little ever since our son was 10 years old. Then he told me something I will never forget. He said the money was important, but it was not the greatest gift. The greatest gift was proving to that child that someone had loved them long before they ever took their first breath. He asked me not to hand over an envelope full of bonds, because people spend envelopes without remembering where they came from. Instead, he wanted me to hide everything inside something made with love. He wanted our grandchild to discover it years later and understand that real treasure is often hidden inside ordinary things. The morning after his funeral, I bought the softest cream-colored yarn I could afford and started knitting. Every stitch hurt my swollen fingers, but every row also felt like another conversation with Robert. I added tiny blue sailboats around the border because he loved fishing more than anything else. In one corner, I quietly stitched his initials, where only someone paying close attention would notice them. It took me almost 4 months to finish because my hands refused to cooperate, but when it was finally complete, I knew it was the finest thing I had ever created. After the blanket was finished, I carefully opened the inside lining and sewed a hidden pocket that nobody could see. Inside, I placed every savings bond Robert had collected over 30 years. Together, they were worth almost $50,000. I also tucked away a sealed letter Robert had dictated from his hospital bed for the grandchild he would never meet. The envelope was marked to be opened on the child's 18th birthday. When I finished sewing the pocket closed, there was no sign anything was hidden inside. It looked like nothing more than a beautiful, handmade baby blanket. Our son Ethan and his wife Lauren were expecting their first baby, and their baby shower finally arrived. I wrapped the blanket in simple cream paper with a blue ribbon and drove there with tears of excitement in my eyes. The whole way, I imagined Robert sitting beside me, smiling proudly because his final gift was finally about to reach the little grandchild he had dreamed about for decades. What I never imagined was that before the afternoon ended, the blanket carrying my husband's final act of love would be dropped into a trash can while an entire room watched.